I'm Ben Raza here with Jason Roslin, as always, through the majors, but golf continues. Obviously, big week for you. Congratulations right off the bat. What did you make of the Open Championship?
Yeah, this is the third, maybe fourth year in a row. I got to be honest. It's turned into my major. I don't know if I'm picking the weather right. This year I did. I picked the weather right. I stacked the AM PM wave. No, I'm sorry, the PM AM wave. I saw that Friday morning was going to be easy, and that was my angle. I said, get my guys done Friday morning, and let me just play. Let me just sit there and watch Friday afternoon and hope that everyone shambled, and they did. My best millionaire maker lineup came in 250th, and guess who was in it? Just take a wild guess.
Spieth.
No, your guy.
Jason Day. That was.
Think about that though, right? I calculated if I'd gotten 10 birdies from him and not that many double bogeys, I would have been in the top 10 of the millionaire maker. So I definitely feel your pain a little bit because I know it was Jason Day. That was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. When it comes to DFS golf, it is the worst thing I've seen in my entire DFS golf life.
Yeah,
no about it.
No, I actually agree. It's one of those things. I'm guilty of this as much as anyone. You cry wolf a lot about this is unbelievable. That was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. It happens. Gotta just move on.
The golf tournament. He was legitimately in the golf tournament. -3, about to post, about to go sit on his butt and watch Rafa Cabrera Bello and others just tank. Oh, man. Anyways, okay. Got that out of our system. Yeah, it was a good week. We got 6 weeks left in the year, 5 weeks left. But before we get into that, I just want to say, for those of you that are new to golf, we get what's called the swing season, where the fall swing, we don't get as big a contest because football's going on, but it takes a lot of research because we get a lot of new guys, a lot of new faces. So don't go too far. A lot of money to be made then. I've seen Ben do very well during that time. That's one of my best times of the year as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. But this week, we have our first no cut in the last 4 months. What do you make of that?
I know it's different. Obviously, this new schedule. This is an interesting week. Obviously, they combined. This used to be Bridgestone. We've had FedEx St. Jude as a traditional tournament. Now we have WGC St. Jude in Memphis. I'm actually a little more excited than I normally would be for a non-cut. It's not my preferred format. We only have 64 guys in the field. We're going to talk about all that. But I do like it. It's interesting. Everyone's flying back from Europe. Obviously, that adds a new wrinkle into everything. But what do you make of this kind of new tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it came from the reshuffle, right? And FedEx said, hey, wait, you're taking away one of our premier tournaments, which is like, hey, we get our name out there a lot. So this was it. FedEx said we want a WGC in Memphis, which is obviously their headquarters or where their corporate headquarters is. So this all works. It puts FedEx Cup really on the stage. They get 60 of the best golfers in the world here. So it's a good trade-off. The golf course itself, I mean, it's been a host for almost 30 years now. So it really was the Daniel Berger Classic, as we knew prior to DJ dominating the field last year. It's where Danny made his money and made a name for himself by hitting fairways and making clutch shots. It is a pretty fun golf course, par 70, so a little different. Now, how are you doing? Now, again, like I said at the top, 4 months since we had our last WGC no cut. How do you attack WGCs differently than regular weeks?
So yeah, obviously it's an interesting situation because it's a major level field. Obviously we're getting 72 holes from everyone. So a couple of things, and we were just talking about this in Slack. One of the things that I always try to balance is if you take a big stand, you don't have the upside of the miscut to get paid off after 36 holes. So that's something to keep in mind. Obviously, some people say, and I totally get this, the cream rises to the top a little more often because, they start slow. They have 2 extra days to round into form. And it's something where obviously outscoring your placement points comes into fruition a lot, especially if you're not up top. So someone who comes in 38th, they can come in 24th in raw scoring, things like that. That makes a huge difference when it's all said and done.
So I think one of my biggest changes in a week like this on how I approach it is I believe that if you're playing cash games, which I play a decent amount of it, probably not as much as other people would suggest me to do or what have you, but hey, everybody does their own thing. In this week, though, I believe my edge when I do play cash is the ability to get 6 of 6 versus other people's not ability to do that. So that edge is totally wiped for me in this. So I will play very, very little to no cash, maybe some 4-mans, something like that. just, again, personal strategy. That's not to say that I don't think I can go out and beat, 50-50 or something like that, or a head-to-head. I just think that there's so much the room for margin of error between my last place guy and their last place guy is so much smaller here, where in other tournaments it could be much, much larger if I get my sixth guy through and he doesn't, or she doesn't for that matter. So I just want to get that kind of general strategy out there. In terms of lineup construction, for me, I'm not going to lie, I kind of go to the FanDuel model and I apply it to DraftKings for the week, which is I plug in one low-priced guy, like really low-priced guy, and hope that he hits, and then I can build 5 other or 4 other core guys around him. Do you look at that strategy, or do you try and still build pretty conservative?
So again, I think conventional wisdom, people say, oh, I'm going to get 72 holes, stars and scrubs time. And I totally get that. Obviously, balance, you're always going to like your lineups a little more because you have 6 really solid guys. But as you've talked about, if somebody, and we're going to obviously get into it, from the lower end can make a move, it almost becomes a tournament within a tournament where you need that guy. We saw this with Sharma in Mexico, who came out of nowhere. If that happens, if someone in the 6s really makes a deep run, it's so important to have that guy. So I definitely will have some builds like that. But I found myself having a little trouble building overall. It was a little tricky to get where I wanted to go.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into kind of the top end price. We saw Justin Thomas, and I don't mean to start with him, but it's perfect because his ownership and his price have kind of skyrocketed here a little bit. And we saw him at 9-1 at the Open last week, right? And mid ownership about 13-14, and had a great week again, ball striking. And now this week, in ownership, of course, if you're not an Awesome.com Plus member, it just came out about an hour and a half ago. Some of the best in the industry, and I'm not just saying that because I use them. And I'm working here, but I'm telling you, they are some of the best. So Justin Thomas, 17%, which is not that bad, right? I'm okay with 17, but he's also 10-7. So we got a $1,600 price target, price hike, and ownership with it. Does that scare you off him at all?
It's tough because, the more you look, obviously, if it wasn't for that late triple last week, it would have looked even better. He played great. I knew you were on him. I had him as well. And I think he sets up as one of the best when he checks all the boxes. I also think he's going to be the most popular. So that's something we're talking about. Again, 64 guys in chat's talking about this right now. Every ownership point is somewhat elevated. Guys that are the 2%ers or 5%ers. And up top, we're going to have massive ownership across the board. So I found myself wanting to get away, whether it's to pay up to get to Rory, pay down to get to Rahm, or really omitting it and starting in a more balanced build. But there's no doubt that JT is one of the best plays on the board.
Yeah, and I do like when a guy is coming in with a little bit of bravado, I guess. And in his press conference, he believes he's pretty close. It really just comes down to the putting. You've seen the ball striking numbers just be out of control. Started with him because he's the top on the board in terms of ownership and price. Rory McIlroy is going to check in right next to him at 17%. And then rounding out now I'm just talking about guys above 10K, of course. Looks like you're going to be able to get some leverage on Brooks Koepka yet again. No surprise there. DJ, mid-ownership, being the defending champion of the event. That's no surprise. And then Rahm's Sunday looks like maybe it's getting a little people off. I mean, the recent form is fantastic. What do you make? Are you going to try and leverage Brooks being under 10%, or are you going to try and go 2 or 3x on one of these other guys?
It's tough because, you want to get – it's such a thin line, and I think you have to be extra careful in a non-cut. You start taking 12% of this guy, and then you have no leverage anywhere. So Brooks is someone that I did get some exposure to. I wasn't able to get a ton of leverage because I did want some JT. I didn't want to make a stand there, and I like Rory and Rahm. So I also had some there. It's not going to be a big stand by me up top. I went really aggressive in the mid-range, which we'll get to. The only guy, and it's scary, but I don't have any Tommy Fleetwood. He did not make the cut for me, and it's nothing against him. He's just, I didn't have real room when it was all said and done.
Let's talk for a second about McIlroy and Fleetwood. I think it's a great conversation. How much, if at all, and you can definitely ask me the same question back, how much, if at all, do you try and get mentally understanding where they are mentally? We can't get into their brain. I'm not saying we can do that. Unless, of course, the PGA Tour decides that they want to call us and have us interview their players, which of course we would do. No problem. But you can sit there and say, okay, Rory McIlroy obviously came out and just said that it was one of the most emotional 2 days that he's ever had on a golf course. Tommy Fleetwood basically just said the same thing, that it was the most emotional 4 days I've had, to be so close and lose. Do you take that into account at all when you're making your lineups? To make you come off or go more onto these guys?
I think you have to. So it's a double-edged thing. Does it matter? 100% it matters, but can you quantify it? I would say the answer is no. Maybe Rory comes out and extra motivated and blows the field away. Maybe he's absolutely still sulking about Northern Ireland. Fleetwood, obviously another chance. I don't want to say it slipped by, but he, runner up, still hasn't broken through. Could that affect him? Sure. Obviously, you and me have talked about throughout the year. If Shane Lowry was playing, that's an easy one. I don't think I'm going there. But for these guys, I'm not as worried. I think that you kind of just have to embrace it, and you can find positives and negatives to any situation.
For sure. Yeah, they both can turn their perceived negative, especially kind of the way that I asked you, that kind of perceived negative notion and turn it into a positive. For me, because of their price, I found it easier to fade them, given where I believe they are mentally and given the fact that they are such high priced. They only really beat me, right, if they come in the top 5 or top 10. Certainly beat me bad if they win, no doubt about it. But I guess that's kind of the stance I'm taking. If we saw Fleetwood at 8-8 or 8-9 where we get Matsuyama this week, then I'd probably be more inclined to play him. But I guess I could say it's more of a price thing, and then I use the validation of, maybe they're kind of still sulking or whatever they're doing. But again, that's more of just to confirm my bias. That's not me saying this is what I believe that they're thinking or what have you. It's just a comment. So, all right, we can move out of the top range because it looks like you're going to be hammering a lot of these guys in this range. I think the first 2 guys priced here, Cantlay and Rose, are really interesting to talk about. Cantlay had basically a terrible weekend and just meandered a 3-over on Sunday. Rose got destroyed on Sunday by the weather. Are you throwing out Sunday in terms of your analysis like I am? I'm completely throwing out any numbers I saw from it.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. Again, I'm more apt to say I'm more worried about where Rose is mentally, and I have no idea where that is, than him shooting 79. That wasn't helpful on Sunday. I wasn't thrilled watching it destroy and put me on food stamps. But other than that, I don't think that it's going to carry over where he has an actual problem within his game. I think he's just fine.
Well, if I don't know what to say, Justin Rose is he's been at times the best player in the world this year. At times we've seen him have every part of it. So he's a little scary to me. Did you find yourself going to Cantlay in this range or skipping both these guys?
I have a little Rose. I didn't get to Cantlay. Another guy where he wasn't, it was pretty uneventful for him.
Very uneventful.
But, that happens. You can't play perfect every week. He's a solid guy. I do think that some of his, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's hurt by not having a cut. He's very consistent. He seems to find a way to get through the weekend. Obviously, everyone's getting through here. So that was enough for me to go elsewhere. And the 9s in general, Kuchar, Stenson, just not really where, we're going to get to Decky and Bryson in a minute. I found myself more apt to take the savings with the high 8s.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm the biggest probably Patrick Cantlay truther on the market. Well, actually, no. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that like Cantlay. I love Cantlay. I've liked him since basically back on tour before he got hot again. But there's plenty of people that love him. Not as many people like Speed. So I guess I can say I'm probably the biggest Speed truther. Anyways. I don't think Cantlay sets up this well, and it looks like he's going to be one of the highest owned on the board. I'm going to probably fade him in the high dollars. There's a good $10 tournament this week that has a $200K first place. I'm, of course, going to get ownership there, and I'll likely have him in one of my bigger dollars, but not the biggest one for me this week. I like to see more out of his game the week before I think a big start is coming, and it's kind of just been mediocre right now, so after that big win, kind of breakthrough win at the Memorial. I mean, his win in Reno Tahoe was kind of the Shriners. Not a great event, okay event. The Memorial's a big-time event, so yeah. Maybe a little lag time there. Next guy I'm going to play is Xander. Like I said, I'm throwing Sunday's round out, and prior to Sunday, he was hitting both 80% of his greens and fairways. So seems to be trending in the right direction. I heard you say Matsuyama DeChambeau that you might be playing. Are you playing Xander as well? I know Stenson and Kuchar are probably overpriced to you. How about Xander?
I have some Xander. It's a guy that we've seen. I mean, is this a trend or is it just somewhat of an outlier? The guy tears up these non-cuts. It's just really impressive. Obviously, he's got a Tour Championship win. He's good in WGCs, great driver of the ball, which I think is good. And he just finds a way. I mean, even last week, looked like he was dead in the water, breezed through the cut with a very clutch Friday round.
With the bad weather, too. Yeah. The Friday bad weather draw. So, yeah, crazy. And he won the TOC earlier in this year to go to your no cut.
Yeah, where another one where the thing with Xander, he seems to have an ability to realize that it's a 72-hole tournament. Woodland was cruising Xander with it was a really low, I don't have it in front of me, but it was a 61, 62-esque type round. He caught Woodland with ease. And that's just where you can make moves in this thing. As much, I'll tell you, I say this every WGC. If you're in first on Thursday, you can take your screenshot for Twitter, but don't be spending that money just yet.
Do not even look. I would honestly recommend waking up Sunday morning and having that be the first time you look. Yeah. Because it is very likely if you are an MME player or you get Thursday right, that the screen's going to look really good. It's happened plenty of times. Also, on the contrary, if the screen looks really bad, don't look at it until Sunday morning.
It's no big deal.
Great. It's worked both ways for me 100% in the WGC events where I thought I was totally dead, and then I come Sunday and I'm in the top 20, and then more often than not, I have a good start, and then I find out nowhere near. They're tougher. I'm not going to lie. These WGCs are tougher because to win the $10, you're going to have likely the optimal lineup or very close to it with only 60 guys. So just understand that, of course, too, when you're playing this week. Okay, we'll go into the next range. You want to spend any time on Stenson Kuchar? I think they're overpriced.
No, I mean, again, if you like them, if you think they're solid plays, more power to you. It's not they're great players, but you can't play everyone. And for me, they're guys that just not on the top of my priority list.
Yeah, I think last week where the grinded out cut mentality was so premium, those guys were perfect plays at 8,400 and 8,700. I just don't know how I can play Stenson and Kuchar when I've got guys that in the 75 and 7,700 range that love to make birdies just as much as them. Again, if it's a grinded out cut, I love them, even at this price, but not in this type of event. So, all right, let's go on to Matsuyama DeChambeau. Matsuyama tripled the first hole on Friday.
It's true.
One, and he was done after that. He had even par, great, very good round on Thursday, was right in it. Tripled and never got it back. DeChambeau never even had a chance. He was over from the start, kind of like Adam Scott. So what are you doing with those? Actually, Adam Scott's the next guy on the list, so we're going to throw him in there as well. What are you doing with these three who all missed the cut?
All missed the cut. So again, it's a theme of this week. You can spin that saying, man, they all missed the cut, not playing great. Or you can say they got back here and didn't have to play in the rain and the wind for 2 extra days. And they're all top-end golfers. I tend to lean to that. Bryson has a knack for getting hot late in the year. Before last week, which is very disappointing, he had been playing good. He's got a good Travelers comp, which I think is a fair course for Southwind. Decky is another one. It's been a year where he's been somewhat consistent, but at the same time, he's really never been right on the doorstep. It's kind of been odd,
he hasn't had a chance to win, really.
So I find myself going to them. I definitely like Bryson. I think he can rebound very quickly. But at the same time, you're going to have to leverage an opportunity cost. It's not like you can you're either starting with them and going balanced. If they're your second man in, you will have to dip still into the low 7s, high 6s.
For sure. Adam Scott, this is where having somebody boots on the ground actually probably pays off. But he could switch that morning. It really comes down to a putter thing with him at this point, which putter he's using. If he's using the broomstick, he's playable. If he's not using the broomstick, he's probably not, right, at this point?
I don't know why this is a thing with him. It seems like everyone has realized that he should just putt with whatever Justin Harding uses. Do what that guy's doing on the green.
Exactly.
He seems to do the opposite of that. I don't know what he's thinking, and it's quite frustrating if you're trying to roster him.
So he's asked about it quite a bit in his interviews that I like to watch, and he says, and I quote, when I put down a putter, and I like the look of it, I just have to run with it, and I think I have 4 putters that I'm great with. So that's the thing, kind of ignorance is bliss, maybe, or maybe he's just thinking he's a little better than he really is, but
Probably that.
stats will probably show that the broomstick is by far his best putter. At 8,700, it is a no cut, so we don't have to worry about that. Ball striking didn't look good last week. Are you playing him?
He's behind the other two. I have a little Scott, no problem with him, but for me, it's just that putting, it's so polarizing. I was disappointed in him last week, and I think I'm searching for the ceiling in this range in particular. And to me, Bryson and Decky's ceilings are still just significantly higher. I think the blow up risk is a little higher too, but that's not when I anchored my lineups here, I was looking for a dark horse-esque winner.
Yep. I totally understand where you're going there. So, all right, let's see. Oh, geez. Okay. Sorry, I missed that. Next part is 2 guys that are going to be very, very chalky, or not very chalky. One of them will be quite chalky. One of them looks like it's going to be mid-ownership, right direction. It's Webb Simpson and Tony Finau, which are 2 of the next guys on the board going down the list we're talking about. So with those guys coming in a little bit higher owned, are you apt to fade them, or are you going to take a stand and maybe go overweight?
So yeah, this is a really tough range. As you mentioned, Webb is super consistent. He does everything well. I find myself fading him, though, I'm going to be honest. And part of it stems from, I think, his best ability is to be steady and find cuts, which is negated here. And I rolled almost all my exposure today, so that made it somewhat binary. When I had someone in this range, it was Day. If I had a couple spots, it was Finau and Day. Paul Casey is also there, who I think is just very under talked about. He's another one, though. He generally is more of a cut maker. He's shown more upside, certainly this year than usual. But I'm going to try to get away with going way under on Webb. I'm hoping that doesn't come back to burn me.
See, this is what I got to give you. I got to give you credit. You just told me at the beginning of the show that Jason Day put you on food stamps. You're ready to roll that food stamp right back into it, because you got to take emotion out of this, right? And that's the most important thing. If a guy burned you last week on a miscut, we're about to get to a guy that burned 25% of the field and a higher dollars, burned even more in a little bit, that I like a lot this week. So it's interesting. You just got to try and take emotion out of it, and I think it's a great point that you just up. You're going right back to him. How about Tony Finau? I like him a tremendous amount since he had that coaching session. I think it was at the 3M or the Rocket Mortgage. He's been playing really well. Everything looks like he came back. He backdoored a top 3. I mean, it really seemed like he backdoored a top 3. He did nothing. He shot even par on Sunday and moved up 6 or 7 or 8 spots. He was big for me.
Incredibly impressive for him. Yeah. It was funny during the coverage. Felt like they weren't showing him, and it was just like, man, he's just making pars, and that is as good as gold. So Finau's certainly playing well. No problem with him. He's obviously behind Day for me, but it's a guy that I absolutely tried to make sure I got some on my roster, because the way he's trending, absolutely in a buy spot for me.
Yep, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, your mic's going in and out a little, but we'll shore it up the window.
Yeah, we'll just bust through it. I don't know what it is. Who knows? All right, we kind of skipped over, but I'll give you a couple seconds if you want to say anything about Jordan Spieth. I can tell you that he hit about 35% of his fairways last week, but according to some numbers, he still gained strokes off the tee. You need to explain that to me. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is, because we only have part of the data. Some of the off the tee numbers looked a little bizarre world, because every single time they showed Spieth, he was in just stuff. Whatever it would have said other if we had Shot Tracker a lot. Yeah. And he holds it together obviously well. He's unbelievable at doing that. We'll see. It still seems like the upside can be there. Nothing more than a flyer, similar to Usti, not for the same reasons, but Usti's another guy that, we've talked about this a million times. he scares me. He's the type of guy who would withdraw from something like this.
Yes,
But
exactly.
he's the guy that when his irons get going, he can get hot in a hurry.
Yeah, he sure can. And admittedly, I was not on Spieth for probably the first time, in quite a while at a major, and it was simply I just didn't think that he is mentally. The round on Sunday, I'm not looking too much into. Like I already said, only because everybody got crushed by it, right? Yeah. It wasn't just one guy. It was everybody. Rose shot 79. Rahm shot 79. So it wasn't just one guy. It was a lot of guys.
I wish Jason Day was there to shoot 79, but that's neither here nor there. It's just how much are you really drawing? There's obviously not going to be anything on this course. This isn't an easy course by any stretch, but it's not going to be anything remotely similar to what they saw. And I think that's misguided if you're drawing, parallels or correlation between what we saw on Sunday and what's going to happen here. It's just you got to put it out of your mind. You just do.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so you are going to have a little of Spieth then, it sounds like.
Yeah, if I make, I'm not done building. He's the type of guy, in the $10, whatever they're calling it. I think he's a perfectly fine play just because we have seen that. But overall, his driving still scares me to prevent me from really taking stands with him.
Okay, so Paul Casey looks like he's going to come in about 15%. Like you said, though, kind of under talked a little bit by the industry this week. What are you doing though with Gary Woodland?
So yeah, that's obviously a situation, and one of the many reasons why Slack is awesome. Our members were quick to point that out. I think it's a super sharp call. His wife is expecting. The withdrawal risk is real. There's no doubt about that. Is it a given that he withdraws? Obviously not. Is that going to lower his ownership that makes him somewhat more intriguing? The answer is yes. If you're embracing risk tolerance, does he become a better play knowing that there's a good chance he withdraws? I think the answer again is yes. For me, it's not a week where I have massive volume. If I was making 150 lineups, I would have some Woodland, but I'm not there. I don't think for single entry, 3-max, things like that, it's worth the risk in something like this where if you get a withdrawal, you're done.
If you're playing 1 or 2 or 5 lineups and he's in any of them, I would probably tell you that I just wouldn't do that. Just because you're pretty much screwed if he withdraws. I mean, it's a tournament where you can get away with that. Now, who's to say when his wife is gonna, go? She could go Saturday morning. She could go Thursday. She could go Monday morning, right? We of course that's nothing that anyone ever controls. So I'm not really playing him that much, but I wasn't playing him anyway because
that too.
If you look at the trend with Gary is, a career-defining win at the U.S. Open, right? Go back to the Waste Management win, which was his first win in maybe 4 or 5 years. Look at his starts afterwards. They were terrible. And then all of a sudden we got a peak and we got a nice and led all the way to the U.S. Open, really. He played good all the way up until there for the most part. And now here we are. So I'm just out on him until I see a top 10. I don't think I need to play him.
One other real quick thing. If you want to play that in the head-to-head market, most books I see, he's paired against Ches. If you're banking that there's a withdrawal risk, if he tees off and then withdraws, you're going to win that head-to-head. So if you want to jump on Ches, I think that's a good move. I hit that pretty early in the week just based on that factor.
Next patch of guys, I'll do 4 here. Reeve, you just mentioned Patrick Reed, Ty Hatton, and Rafa Cabrera-Bello. So 2 guys that top 10 last week, and 2 guys that missed cut. I like 3 of 4. Same thing I just said about Woodland, I'm going to say about Reeve. They're just trend form golfers. We saw the miscut from Reeve at the week after his huge win at the Travelers. He totally blew up. He did not get it back at the British. I know we're going to get 4 days of him here. I just would rather put my money in Rafa Cabrera-Bello, who just totally blew up in the weather. What happened?
I'm with you. We're actually in line on this. I like 3 or 4 of them. The odd man out would be Ches. As you mentioned, form golfer, just a guy that I know he has good TPC Southwind stats at the FedEx, done some things. Don't know if you're even hearing me because you look.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. I don't know what the heck happens. Like,
well, good. It's Ches, man. What can you say? But for me,
Chaz does that to us, dude. That's just what he does.
story of my life. But I'm going to continue. I think you know by now. I'm on Patrick Reed as I've been for. It's been a while now. The irons are continuing to be good. He grinded out, as you said, nice top 10 finish. Same with Ty Hatton. And talk about short memory, RCB. I didn't love the spot last week. I think this is a much better spot. He's still behind those two guys, but people got burned by him, a lot of people, and that leaves a sour taste in the mouth in a macro level. It's not a bad idea to jump back in.
Definitely. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Hey, can you see me is the question.
I see you. I hear you. It's all
good. All right. Okay, good. Sweet. So I'm back in Rafa Cabrera as well. He had the worst of that weather on Friday afternoon, and he actually got it to a point early in that round on Friday where he was back inside the cut at even par. Then he got to 12, and he doubled to go back to 3 over, and then bogey on 13 brought him either 13 or 14. It brought him to 4 over, and then it was just tank kill after that. So I don't put too much stock into that last 9 holes because I think once he figured out he was not going to make the cut, that was just it. So I'm back in. He makes a ton of birdies, and we don't have to worry about him going home 2 days early. Well, we hope not, at least.
It's, again, this is a mid-range price. You're going to have a lot of options in these high sevens. Guys like Reed, as we work down, we've got Fitzy and the English gang, Fitzy, Wallace, Willett. Leishman is there, who talk about, he made Adam Scott and Rory look like they were in the tournament. Leishman was at a different level of dead right off the bat. That was a huge
happened with him. I feel like with him, you either know in the first 6 holes if he's going to be in the golf tournament or not.
It's because he's, I feel like guys like him where off the tee can go like that, you see it because every time they would show to Leishman, it was just bad off the tee, a layup. He's got 90 yards for birdie, hits it to 30 feet, 2 putts for bogey, repeat. And that's just a recipe for absolute disaster. Having said that, once again, I know this is a broken record. It's not going to be over-owned. His price is fair. It's a guy that I'm comfortable going to. Fitzy is a steady player, but I always have a little of him. I like the way he plays.
So I actually love Matt Wallace here this week.
Ooh. All right, talk to me about that. That's interesting.
So first 2 rounds last week, Thursday and Friday, he admittedly said it was the first two rounds he was most excited to play as a professional. It was his lifelong dream. And he ended up squeaking through the cut, so he didn't play that bad. Over the weekend, he got terrible weather on Saturday, played pretty good on Sunday. What I like about him, though, is he's one of the best putters in the world. Great short game. So why I like that here is I just think that's going to keep him at least interested throughout the whole weekend. I don't expect DJ to get off to a tremendous start where it's double digits hitting into Saturday. So I think that Matt Wallace can stay involved, and I think when he stays involved, he can get really hot. He's got that extra gear. We've seen him top 10, top 5 at a major this year. So I really like that upside. I love the ownership here at 6%. I know he's not great off the tee, so that's kind of, I guess, my one fear of playing him in some big dollars is that he's not great off the tee and he could get into trouble. But the talent level for this guy in the year he's having, I have to get behind at 7,700.
Fair enough. He's had a super impressive year. The off the tee game is what I was going to bring up. I think that's probably your biggest concern, but we've seen him time and time again get crazy out with the putter. Obviously, you need to make birdies in this type of format. So the other thing is, actually, I want to ask you about one guy that we kind of glossed over. What are you going to do with the other Spaniard? Do you have any interest in Sergio?
So this is where you got to take emotion out again because he's just such a classless actor. I don't even know what to say about the guy. He's so frustrating. And if you all and you, Ben, don't know what I'm talking about, he threw his club like legit threw his driver or 3-wood at his caddy. It was on Sunday. He was playing with Spieth, and he had just hit it OB on 5 from the drive. And obviously, his caddy gave him the wrong club or wrong number. It's not the first episode we've had from Sergio. It's like the 5th, probably this year. So got to take emotion out of it, though. I don't mind him. I would rather play Matt Wallace over him. I'd rather play Andrew Putnam over him. I'd rather play Matt Fitzpatrick over him. And the next guy, Danny Willett, who leads the tour in proximity from 115 to 175, that I believe is going to be super important this week, at least historically it has been. I'll play any of those 4 or 5 over Sergio. And it looks like the ownership is going to be relatively the same on all of them. So it's not like you're getting an ownership discount to go to Sergio.
Yeah, Sergio, I think, he's a fine play, good driver of the ball. And I genuinely think he's better than a lot of these guys. But in this spot, I'm not overly excited to go to him. Nothing more than, a role, someone that's in the rotation of guys that I used in the upper sevens. But I certainly didn't prioritize him over the names you mentioned.
Why is Billy Horschel going to be 20% owned?
I don't know. I never contribute to his ownership because I don't play Billy Ho. And
I'd much rather play
a lot of problems in my life, but that's not one of them. I let other people do that. He's a fine player, but not for me.
I guess I would want someone to explain why they would, at this stage right now, I'm not talking about the past or anything like that. Obviously, Billy Horschel is a FedEx Cup champion, won a ton of money, but why right now would you play Billy Horschel over Matt Wolff in a no-cut event? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Billy Ho is just, he just gets – I have no problem with playing him. I just am astounded at his ownership in a lot of tournaments. We know he can get hot, especially in Bermuda. I understand that. And before the Open, he plays well and he makes cuts. There's no doubt about it. He's someone I feel so confident that I can get away with fading in this format. If that's the reason I lose this week, so be it. But I feel so often, even when he plays well, it ends up as a middling result where it doesn't kill those people, but I'm just fine not being a part of it.
So a bogey on the it was the 9th hole, but his 32nd hole, 36th hole of the tournament probably is the reason why I came in a tie for 4th in the 3,100 on DK, and it's Keegan Bradley. Reason why I bring him up now is because he, along with Billy Horschel, are the two guys under 7.5K, and Keegan under 7K that are going to be 15 to 20% off. I get it with Keegan. It's got all the numbers. It's a no cut. It makes sense. I just feel like you're getting the same player in Corey Connors for $600 cheaper.
Corey Connors. Yeah, I mean, Keegan. See, this is a perfect example of what I'm saying. And I know that if Keegan comes in 52nd, you're going to be just fine if you pivot. But you know what's even nicer than that? When Keegan blows up and you get the miscut and you get paid off, this would be such an easy fade for me if if this was a cut event. I think Keegan is the best player in the sixes, but I'm actually more apt to go to all you boys, whether we're talking Biergard, Thorborn, even Hao Tong Lee is down there. And then you've obviously mentioned the real cheapies who we can get to in a second. But Keegan is someone that I have some exposure. I didn't want a full fade by any stretch, but I think it's pretty dicey. And I think if you're going to get guys at half the ownership, who to me are, coin tosses in head-to-head matchups, I'm more apt to go there.
So I know Alex Norton hasn't had a great year. You and I have probably chronicled it, maybe more so than a lot of other people here in the industry. And I get the sense it's because you and I both used to like to play him. He's a solid player. He's done well by me, especially last year. So you match up Noren and Kisner. Kisner's coming in at 10 and Noren's coming in at 5. That's another one I just don't know that I understand, because I think that if you look at the numbers, it looks like Noren is trending in the right direction.
It does. Actually, right before the show, in our premium Slack, I was holding office hours and we had a sub, B Dozer, who brought up some really good points about Noren and actually got me more excited to use him. He's actually outside the 125 in the FedEx Cup, needs a big week, and he's gaining off the tee consistently. Obviously, he should tear up Opens. He did look good last week, finally, and that's the perfect event for him. But he needs to sustain better results going forward, starting to string it together. And I'm with you. I think that Alex Noren's in a pretty good spot here at 7,300.
Yeah, and Kisner had a decent week last week too. I'm not trying to take that away. It's just at half the ownership.
No, yeah, it's
even probably half of that is Eddie Pepperell, who had a bad week last week. Any interest in Pepperell, Watson, Cam Smith, who had his name up in the leaderboard quite a bit. How about those three?
I like Bubba. Again, another Travelers comp guy, can be mega aggressive off the tee. And, with Bubba, we don't know. We don't know if this is a Bubba course. I have no idea. Maybe he.
Right?
Yeah, right. So what do we can take from that? Nothing. But at 7,100, you see Lefty lurking there too, and he's
just about to say that. Yeah.
Like, he is so egregious. I get it. Again, you're saying 72 holes. Oh, he's going to give you a couple streaks. Maybe, but I'm more apt to roll the dice with Bubba. I think there's a window there for him to really like this course and really play well.
11, 3, 2, 9, 12. It's pretty good for course history on Phil Mickelson. I know we don't bring that up that much here. Think of it at what you want. There's plenty of people that debate it in the industry. That's to each his own kind of thing. That's pretty good, though. I mean, granted, Phil has been around for a while, and he should have some of these. You make anything of that? Does that make you want to play him a little bit more?
It's certainly good to see him like the course. I will say, though, that this course is obviously going to play very similar, but the field is way different. So, like, when you're beating, Ben
Daniel Berger.
Yeah, Peter Uihlein in the gang. That's great. So, like, these are guys that if Phil's not going to be able to just coast to, if he plays bad, he's going to finish way down there. This is a super strong field.
Yeah, I think Horikawa might be able to give him a run for his money if he continues to play the way he's been playing.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so we're now getting into the kind of the value section here. Any other guys above 7 that you want to talk about? JB Holmes is sitting there. I think the whole world is infuriated at him. He makes people not like golf. So I really just wish that they would.
Yeah, no, he
iced Brooks. I feel like he iced Brooks at least 3 or 4 times in the round on Sunday.
That's the only thing I like about JB Holmes, because I don't like Brooks. So I was rooting for that. It still didn't work because Rose was so bad, but that's neither here nor there. I don't see much else. I'm interested to see, we've already talked about Keegan, and I mentioned the string of Euros that have been over here. What else do you make of the 6s?
So Kevin Tway is definitely interesting because when you go look at his dashboard, a couple of weeks ago, it was really good except for the putting, right? At the Travelers. Travelers is where he played really good. Rocket Mortgage, he lost 4 strokes putting in the first 2 days and gained just about 4 strokes tee to green, lost it on the number. And then the John Deere, he almost had that hole-in-one on the back 9 that got him inside the cut. He doubled the next hole and then missed the cut. So I think he's playing kind of okay. So at 6,700, I'm definitely going to have some Kevin Tway. I know that he's very good off the tee, super aggressive, going to have chances. So that's the next guy I go to. I'm going to play a little Kevin Na, not a ton, but why is he – This is probably the 7th time I'm going to say this to you tonight, and I apologize for sounding like a broken record. Why is Kevin Na not playing in the Open Championship but playing in this?
Resting up for I don't know. So Kevin Na, I guess it's a neck injury. He had withdrawn multiple times. I think it's 3 in a row, and now is teeing it up here. I don't know what to make of that. It's a buyer beware situation, but you're not going to have ownership associated with him. And if I knew he was healthy, I think the price is a little low, to be honest. So I get that. Are you going to use the broomstick man? Justin Harding is an incredible putter. He really is.
Really is. I mean, another run at a major for him. He was in the Millionaire Maker lineup again. Yeah, I think at this price, 6,600, he's just so good at putting. You have to use him. If I'm going to use Matt Wallace, I kind of have to use Justin Harding, right? I mean, I'm playing them or would be playing them for the same reasons. So I am playing a little Justin Harding. I will say that. So Killer Keith was a guy that I really wanted to focus on at the beginning of the week, and then all of a sudden ownership came out, and it looked like everyone's going to kind of flock to him in that area. It looks like probably coming in over 10% down here. What do you make of that? Are you okay with playing a 10% Keith Mitchell at 6,500 and a no cut, or are you more apt to go to Nate Lashley, who also ended up having a really good cut sweat as well as Keith Mitchell last week?
Yeah, Keith Mitchell obviously was a name I heard a lot early in the week, people, going back on Bermuda. I totally get it. 72 holes. He's a crazy scorer. There are certainly things that line up for him, but his irons are just straight broken right now. I think that's a huge deal, obviously. And I think there's immense downside. So as Chat just pointed out, I think this is interesting. CT Pan is a name that we didn't mention, who's not playing great, but I think this is a very good course for him. And I wouldn't be stunned to see him come in at low ownership. I would rather roll the dice on someone like that than Keith Mitchell at like around 10% ownership.
Yeah, CT Pan 18th there last year. We don't have to worry about him playing in a major and blowing up. Just don't play CT Pan in major.
No, I've learned that the hard way.
No fortitude to do it. Yep, but fine play. Priced at 6,800, I guess. That's where I'm having more. If I needed $500 or $400 for that matter, I would much rather go down to Connors or Homa. But before I move on to them, I just want to make a point about Lashley really quick. Lashley was a guy that kind of popped up in the stats all the time in terms of ball striking. And recently he's found the putter, which we saw him, obviously have that breakthrough win. Last week he had, I don't know if you were watching really late on Friday, literally the last guy to come through, it was Lashley. He had about a 14-footer to make the cut and missed it. But I do think this is a good spot for him, to be honest. He's been putting very good. Looks like he's, I'm not going to be the only one looking to play him. But I am a little bit interested. I'm also interested in Sung Kang, even though I like to play him in bad weather events, not weather events that we're going to have this week, which we didn't cover at the beginning. It's going to be perfect the first 2 days, probably all 4 days. So there's literally no draw bias, no nothing. Plus, everybody tees off in I think it's a 3-hour window, right? I could be wrong on that though. I didn't check on that.
Yeah, it's not much with only 64 guys.
That's why I didn't cover tee times. Normally we cover tee times. This is your first time watching. In the beginning of the show, normally Ben and I cover some marquee tee times, and then we talk about tee time swaps or tee time. But 12:20 to 10:10. I'm sorry, to 2:10. So everybody's off in the 2 hour.
Yeah, that's
so don't have to worry about it.
Don't
worry. We like to not have to worry about that. So I will talk now about my 3 guys, 6,400 and 63. Sung Kang, I like to play during bad weather, but Max Homa and Corey Connors, I know that they're probably going to be pretty popular, but I'm definitely interested in both of them this week.
I have a little, Corey Connors, incredible ball striker. We know that. They're both, I think it's fair to say they're somewhat overmatched in a field like this. Is incredibly strong, but they allow you to do things with the rest of your roster where if they can just outscore their placement points or, hang around and give you a middling finish, you can have a combination up top that's just borderline impossible to get. And that's how you create an optimal. If JT comes in first and Rory comes in second, it might be an optimal where you need someone at 6,300, even if they come in 35th or 40th. It's the only way to do it with different scenarios. And that's where I think they are pertinent to take a look at this week.
Yeah. What you're hoping for there is Connors to put together, or any of these guys to put together a streak or 2 or 3 and sure. get those DK points that are not positional points. So got a question in Slack about Ian Poulter, and the question specifically was how much Poulter for you this week?
Yeah, he's not playing well, but I think as a sneaky mid-7s range, he can get hot on Bermuda. I have just a sliver, but I think Noren overtook him for me, even Kisner. There's not much to like in his recent form, even though he hasn't played a ton over here. It's been mostly majors when you look at the results.
Yep. I can't get to Poulter this week. I don't think he's playing good enough for me to play him first. And second, when you got guys like Alex Noren that are playing pretty good, Cam Smith that just played great last week, how about Eddie Pepperell, though, up against Poulter? We talked a little bit about Pepperell a little while ago, and both said, low owned, probably the only reason for me to play him. And I probably will have some of them for that reason. But are you playing Pepperell over Poulter, or would you do that?
I don't have much of either. I think I actually have more Poulter when it comes down to, but again, Noren and Kisner would both be ahead of both of them for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense.
well, last thing, and then I mean, we can
Yeah.
give our hot takes and talk about a couple other quick things. So there's 6 guys, as I would call them, creative players at the bottom. Do you have any interest in any of them, or you think that's just an easy spot to just give up and let other people chase them?
All right, so I think the creative player thing, that's just absolutely fantastic, and needs to be trademarked. So we're talking about not Adam Long, right? Skip Adam Long.
No, I'm
Okay.
starting with the Poom.
Imihara, Saxon, Rai, Horikawa, Erickson, Ichihara.
Yeah.
Ichihara. No interest in either. And it's likely that one of the 6 come in the top 20. Top 30, not top 20. I'll give him top 30. One of them comes in the top
half.
Yeah, top half. I would say one of them has a chance to. So Sakusin, he was popular in Euro earlier in the season because he got hot. When you look at their recent form, Imihara has 3 top 10s in his last 4. So if I had to play any, it would just go with the form. It would go with what I would be perceived long-term form as well, being the 71st ranked golfer in the world. I'd go with Imihara over any of them if I had to choose.
Yeah, I mean, I only know who 4 of them are. So 2 are out just because I actually don't know who they are. Aaron Rai was a guy. He's mega talented. He's just playing horrible. And overall, I think it's just unnecessary because you're right. Maybe one of them can have a decent week, but why not just pay an extra couple $100 and take some tour players that, to me, certainly are more viable to have a better week. And what are you really sacrificing? A little more popularity? It's an easy call for me.
Definitely agree with you there. So that covers the entire field.
Look at that.
We've got 7 minutes left, so I think it would probably behoove us a little bit to talk about some of the news that came out yesterday. And if you guys haven't heard the news or didn't see, the PGA Tour has inked a deal with DraftKings for the next, I believe it's at least, I think it's at 2 or 3 years, where they're going to do some co-branding things, some marketing things, and DraftKings now becomes the fantasy app or fantasy sports app of the PGA Tour. So really cool news, because one of the things that DFS golf has not had that other sports have had that people love is these live finals. And I think that's probably one of the top 2 things to come out of it for me is now the opportunity to have a live final in this industry. And I would say the second thing, which most people are probably super excited about, is the ability for real-time video of golfers in your lineup. How they actually pull this off, I'm super excited to see, because it's something I really want to see Cam Davis whiff 2 balls to triple and miss the cut on Friday. I want to see that. Whether I have him on my team or not, that's stuff I want to see, and it looks like we are going to get to see it. So what do you make of the partnership?
Certainly exciting. Yeah, obviously it opens the door for things that seem fairly obvious, like you said. How you're watching the Golf Channel and they leave it. There's 20 guys on the course. The cut is bouncing around, and they shoot it over to Arkansas for some bozo tournament. You should be able to watch that. They should have red zone type things. They should have DraftKings scoring integrated, and there should be discussions about it within the tour. I think that's easy stuff, and it can grow not just golf, but it'll grow DFS, and I'm excited to see that stuff. The live final could be interesting. Yeah, golf doesn't have that like the other DFS sports do, so it's certainly something that I think in a couple of years we're going to look back and say this could be a big turning point for the sport, because DFS golf is awesome, and I think the more people that try it will really like it.
Definitely, it provides a sweat unlike any other.
I don't want to see Cam Davis though. I can't take it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's real and there's not like a hoax behind it.
It's real. All too real, that guy.
Yeah, that was, and if you guys don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago where he legitimately moved the cut himself. He brought 24 people back of tournament, and one of them, Lucas Glover, ended up in the top 10 of the tournament. So no, I truly am. I'm really excited about it. I think it. I hope that what it's going to do is it's going to open the players up a little bit more to understanding that not everybody that gambles and tweets at them are bad people, or plays DFS golf are bad people, and should hopefully bridge that gap a little bit between player and pro, or player and gamer, I should say. So interested to see how that works out, because we've seen guys like Kevin Kisner come out and say, I don't give a shit about, and excuse my French here, but I don't give a shit about DFS players. And he's legitimately said that. I didn't make up that word. So I think that'll be interesting to see. I actually also hope that there's a DraftKings. So the Barracuda, which is going on.
Yeah, they should.
This should be the DraftKings Open, not the Barracuda. It should be the DraftKings Open, and it should be DraftKings scoring. I don't see any other reason why it wouldn't be.
Incredibly obvious that they should do that. I've seen it suggested on Twitter. It's a super smart idea, and it would be, they already use Stableford scoring, which is like basically the same thing. Just do it. And then there's nothing worse than losing to the under 70 bonus in real life. I want to see that happen for a golfer.
I want to see them tilt just like we have.
Yeah, it's so gross.
So really exciting things happening there. I think it's going to just grow the prize pools, grow the offerings. Now, if you don't like these top-heavy things or these massive prize pools, it's just going to bring more people in, which is going to have more contest offerings. It's only good things to come, and also branded contest offerings, which could be nice to get experiences for some prizes and stuff like that. So really exciting things. WGC this week, we've got, I believe it's 5 tournaments after this, if I'm not mistaken, before the 2-week break, and then we go into this fall swing season. Anything you want to go on before we? Oh, we'll give a hot take. Sure. Why don't we do that? And then we'll get out of here. How's that sound?
Sure. I mean, this isn't even that hot. I'm gonna say an Australian wins the tournament. So okay. Give me the Leishman Day Scott types.
Okay. Matt Wallace wins.
Oh, see, you just get. As I haven't said Dante's Peak in weeks, so I'm going back to Dante's Peak level hot there. I like it.
If it happens, then yeah, I don't know what to say.
No, Chad. Let's not hate on Cam Davis. I had Cam Davis that week.
I did too. We're not hating on him. We had him on our lineup. That's why we're talking about it.
I respect Cam Davis. Just, you can't be doing that. It was like, man, he's been in that bunker for a while. Then I realized that the yellow dot moved slightly. He just left it in there. Very, very bad, Cam, but I hope he can rally and fix it. Anyway.
Yeah, one last thing. Our buddy Coolers in Slack, he asked us about Hautong, Olesen, and Beauregard, and Ben brought them up right at the top of the 6th and said they're all really solid Euro plays that, don't get a ton of starts that would count as a PGA Tour event. So certainly could help some standing there. So I like all 3 of them. They're all 3 of them in my player pool. I went to Corey Connors in my bigger dollars instead of those.
Yeah,
whichever way you want it.
It was tough to separate them. I think if I had to choose, it would go Beauregard, Olesen. Hautong's really actually not playing too well, but we've seen him do some things. But yeah, as you said, 5 weeks left. Chat, you've been with us the whole way, and we always appreciate it. If you can hit the like button. On the way out, we're going to keep it going. We've got Wyndham up next. On that note, we're going to bounce on out of here. As we always say, get in Slack. We'd love to have you in there. If you have any questions, find us there. Find us on Twitter. We'll be back next week, next Wednesday. Good luck, everyone. Enjoy the WGC.
Cheers, everybody.